Hi, and welcome to the Community InRoads show. My name is Joan Kulash. I'll be your host. And today, I'd like you to walk down the Community InRoads road with me and meet one of the extraordinary nonprofits I've come to know and been utterly amazed by in my role as the executive director of a nonprofit called Community InRoads. With us today are Monica Minoski, the executive director of the Essex Art Center, Gabriel Sosa, Deputy Director of the Center, the Essex Art Center, and the beautiful artist, Marla McLeod, who currently has a wonderful solo exhibition at the Essex Art Center. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you're able to join us on the show. Monica, as you know, Community InRoads is a nonprofit that works with other nonprofits in Lawrence and Haverhill. And what we want to do is make our community of nonprofits strong so that they're in a better position to serve the people in our community. And you are a pretty brand new executive director on the circuit, and you've made a big splash already. It's pretty amazing. But we have had the wonderful opportunity of working with you already. And I'm just wondering if you could just take a few moments, because this is your show. We want to be focusing it on you, but just how it comes to be that we know one another and some of the work that we've been able to do together.
Hi, Joan. I want to start by thanking you. When I started at Essex Art Center last year, you were one of many people in the community who really welcomed me so warmly and made a place for me at the table. We've been lucky to participate in some of the professional development opportunities offered by Community InRoads. Right now, our board chair and I are participating in the Cultural Inclusion Program, which addresses the fact that Lawrence is a majority Latinx community, but many of the boards, including our own, don't represent that. Gabriel and I have been working to cultivate relationships with community stakeholders, and we've made some progress addressing this issue, but we still have a ways to go. And I've really appreciated the opportunity to learn with and from people who are invested in serving the organizations that help make the city of Lawrence so special.
Thanks, Monica. And I am just going to, as you're speaking, I'm reminded of a very big event that you had this summer. That well, I forget, what was it called? It had a special name to it.
It was our grand reopening event, Fiesta en la Calle, a big block party.
It was a big block party, and what was very special about it was that I think for the first time, the community of Lawrence, and I'm talking about basically the Latinx community, really felt as though you were embracing them. And what was interesting was when I was there and I was watching all the excitement and the dancing and the puppetry and the free ice cream that I was hovering around, I bumped into one of my friends who lives in Lawrence, Latina woman, and I asked her, "Hey, what do you think of this? This is just incredible today." And she looked at me and she said, "For the first time, we feel that we belong and that they're embracing us and bringing us in." So again, less than a year, right, Monica? Or how long have you been here?
I just had my work anniversary last week.
No kidding. So
Yeah.
it's been a year already, but you've really hit it. This is what I know the center had been trying to do for a long time, and you just get it. You get it right out of the gate. So Monica, how would you describe the Essex Art Center? What your mission is, what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do new?
So Essex Art Center is a hub for art, education, and community. We know the power of art and the profound impact it can have on a person's life and also on our community overall. So, as you said, we've been working really hard to make what we do welcoming and inclusive, especially to Lawrence residents. We offer free programming and reduced cost studio classes taught by working artists. We provide community outreach programs where our teachers essentially bring the studio experience into schools or community organizations. And as you touched on, we put on events like we did this summer, and we also recently hosted something called a sound gallery event that gave performing artists an opportunity to perform and also make money, because that's been something that's been really hard for them to do during this COVID era. And in the galleries, we're curating relevant, well-researched exhibitions that we hope will allow artists to take their careers to the next level. We're specifically highlighting artists who have been historically underrepresented, including women, BIPOC, and artists with disabilities.
And so this term BIPOC, by the way, is relatively new on the circuit. So for those people who aren't in the know about some of the new terms, do you want to tell folks what BIPOC stands for?
Black, Indigenous, people of color.
So that's brand new. So people who didn't know what BIPOC meant, you're in the know right now. So there's a handsome gentleman with us today who was being very quiet. Gabriel, welcome.
Thank you, Joan.
And Gabrielle and I were just talking about a new addition to this world that's coming up. Gabrielle is soon going to be a new daddy. So looking forward to celebrating the birth of your child on February 8th or soon. So Gabrielle, what has been your role in helping the Essex Art Center?
So I'm the deputy director at Essex Art Center, and I am just coming up on my 6-month anniversary with the center. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is language access. As Monica mentioned, Lawrence is about 80% Hispanic Latino, and a large number of those folks speak Spanish as their primary language. And so one of the things that we have as part of our exhibitions is that all of the exhibition materials are translated into Spanish. So that means as soon as you come into the exhibition, there is a text printed in large font on the wall that just sort of summarizes what it is that folks are walking into, what the themes are, a little bit of background about the artist. And all of that is in Spanish. And as well as all of the labels, each of the pieces have some kind of short, explanatory, interpretive text that gives a little context to what the art is. So all of that has been translated into Spanish as well, which is something I do at the center. And then one thing that I often think about is that, you know, the labels are sort of one thing, right? I mean, that means that it opens up a certain door once people are already in the space. But one thing we're also thinking about at Essex Art Center is how to get those populations into the space in the first place. So one of the things I regularly do is I go on 98.1, which is Radio Católica. It's a Spanish language station, radio station in Lawrence. And I talk a little bit about the upcoming courses we have and the exhibitions and other events we have, just so that the Spanish-speaking community in the Lawrence area can really be able to have that venue to learn about and become engaged with what we're doing at the center.
And what's so nice as a non-Spanish speaking person, although I have little words here and there that I understand, is that it brings all of us together. You know, when we're in under your roof, I feel a connection to everyone. You know, people who are now understanding what's going on by understanding the Spanish or having the Spanish come to them, their own language, and we're all under that same roof, enjoying the same beautiful art. There is a connection that's going on, and I don't know if that's part of what you were hoping to achieve. One of the events that I was at, and I think it might have been that first grand opening, you had a puppet show. And it was in Spanish, and just the kids loving it and just falling over one another and understanding what was going on, also with the adults in the room just enjoying the kids, enjoying the puppets. And it really is creating community. So
sure.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of that. You know, I think people often think of English as the primary language in the US, but once you really start to get involved with different communities, you realize that that's far from the case, right? I mean, there's so many languages that are prevalent throughout the country, especially in Massachusetts and in Lawrence. And so us offering programming and materials in Spanish, which is the dominant language in the Lawrence area besides English, is certainly a part, an effort on our part to recognize that. And then I'm so touched to hear that you feel that togetherness in the space, and we only have more work to do in terms of bringing people together and cultivating that same sensation.
And it really becomes not work at all. It becomes a joy, doesn't it?
It
When, when,
does.
when you really see it happening, it's just, I almost want to say it's flavorful. It's rich. It just brings out a family warm feeling among all of us. So Monica and Gabrielle, what would you like to focus in on today as far as all the myriad of things that Essex Art Center has been doing?
Well, we want to focus on our current exhibition. It is the largest single artist show we've ever done at Essex Art Center. Marla's show, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, is so powerful. She tackles complex subjects like representation and systemic racism in our country. And she does so in a way that's so engaging and draws people in, and as you said, together. And this exhibition celebrates Marla's Walter Feldman Fellowship, which she was awarded in 2021.
Welcome, Marla.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well.
The one thing that we haven't discussed is just Marla herself, and just the energy, that smile, that encouraging look that she has, that is also all embracing. I have to I mentioned it the first time we met. I mentioned that to you, Marla, and I'm watching your face now, and it's just a joy to speak with you and to get to know you a little bit better. So can you tell folks about your origin as an artist? What got you going? When did you begin to start making art? Was there a time when you really started thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm an artist? I'm an artist.
I would have to say, is there a point? Yes. I would say upon graduating from undergrad is when I would have considered myself an artist. I had taken over about a year and a half. I'd taken a lot of different sort of classes and courses into the different materials in art and really experience all of that. And so going into grad school, I wanted to put meaning behind it. And so that was like, for me, that's okay. I'm not just doing art. I'm like becoming an artist right here, right now. So that's great. Oh, and about me, I am an interdisciplinary artist. I guess that that intro would lead to that, right? But I'm from California, and I moved over here to the East Coast and did my schooling over here. And yeah, this is where we are.
Well, I think one of the things that's fascinating to me about the origins of your being an artist is that as a kid, you didn't look at yourself as being an artist. B, you're really basically an engineer,
Yes,
right?
yes, we can
And can
absolutely
you just
talk
very
about
briefly tell people about, what you were studying and how the two came together?
absolutely. I actually was studying geographic information systems before I switched over into art, and I switched over into studio art because one of my teachers told me that I could take the things in my head and make them into reality. And I was like, huh, because geographic information systems is hard data. It's taking hard data and putting it into forms where like anyone could understand it, right? So if I took like how many people were born in America versus how many people are born worldwide and put it into a visual for you. That's pretty much it. So now what I get to do is I get to take hard data sort of in the same way, but create a visualization for it that more people would be apt to pay attention to. And that was like, it was super exciting to learn that because growing up as a child, no, no, no art.
So, and there's just that kind of whimsical, creative person who you are, and you don't really think of somebody who's, think of an engineer as somebody who's very regimented. And so it's just interesting, the assumptions that we make. So Marla, what's your relationship with Essex Art Center? You're in Connecticut right now. Is that where you said you are?
I am
So what's
currently
the
in
connection with Essex Art, and what are you hoping to achieve by coming to our beautiful city and to the Essex Art Center?
so this is going back into why I actually switched from being in geographic information systems versus being in art, because a lot of the data that I see and that I look at now, I was I said to myself, I could take this sort of technique or this skill, right, that I have, and there could be a message that could be sent out or that could be said or something that can be highlighted in a way. And because I have a technical skill and I know that, I could get people to pay attention to it. So it's like, what is that message? And the Essex Art Center for me allows me to share that message that I decided on, right? Which was one of where I wanted to talk about culture. I wanted to talk about the differences in our culture and sort of ways that we as individuals can actually connect to these two cultures that are not our own in ways that we may not have seen before. And this is for me like where that hard data comes in. This is the situation, this is the hard data. How do I get people to relate to that? And it garments, no, paintings, sculpture, but it's definitely about giving a message. And what the Essex Art Center does is they allow me to put that message out in its entirety. They let me use like the building and have a whole inclusive show with all of the different sorts of ways that I interpret the data that I come across. And with this, what it allows me to do as well is to really talk to the people in the community and to get them to understand what the meaning behind the work, to be able to relate to them, give them information that they may not have known, and they give me information that I may not have known. And in the Art Center as well, what I've been able to do, and I'm super excited about, is connect with a lot of the youth in the space and be able to share the things that I do and give that push and pull, that give and take that happens when you are able to like really connect with your audience in ways. So Essex, I'm like super excited to be in the space and to be able to really just talk to the people in the area and really engage in ways. It's a very cultural space. If you look at my work, you'll see that there is not just one culture. You'll see a lot of Black culture, definitely. But what you will also see is there's so many differences in Black culture, from Jamaican or Haitian and mixed race, right? Which is something that you would see in maybe like Monica's Folklorico, the red dress in the background over here, uh, where it's about my niece who is myself, obviously by relation, but she is mixed with Native Mexican, Native American, and African American, and all sorts of white, right? But it's sort of it gets into all of these, I would say, micro areas of macro issues, right? And really like digs into that information and just shares it. I know I talk a lot.
Oh, that's what you're here for.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be awful if you weren't talking? Monica and Gabriel, do you think that she's succeeding in what she's attempting to be
Oh
doing?
my gosh, yes. It was so Marla first showed at Essex Art Center by participating in our grand reopening salon show and art sale. And I have to tell you, the number of students who would just stop in front of her portraits and have conversations saying, that one kind of looks like my auntie, or that one kind of looks like someone else I know. Because too often people in our community have not seen themselves represented within the canons of art. And so it's just really powerful and impactful for people to be able to connect. And with Marla's work, that's just very easy for them to do and very natural.
I'm gonna jump in there. You were saying about the relation or people being able to see themselves in the work or see somebody that they're related to in the work, and that is definitely part of it, right? So when we go into the space, and what Monica is speaking about as well, is like how we go into museums and we go into different art shows and different spaces like that, and you don't necessarily see a huge representation of self in those spaces. And what I am so happy about being able to do with Essex is to allow people that opportunity. This like, it's a whole show. You go in, you're like, wait a minute. Wow, this is super cool. And you can go into all of that information that's in any of the actual pieces. And I'm sure you'll be able to find some sort of historical account that you could actually relate to.
So I just want to say to my North Andover neighbors how lucky I feel, and I think we should all feel that right around the corner, for me, you know, really walking distance is this jewel of an art center. And while I have enjoyed going into Boston, certainly driving in, looking for parking, and going to some of the art museums there, there's something very special, really special and very professional right around the corner, spitting distance. Monica and Gabriel and Marla, what do you think makes the Art Center so unique?
Ooh, can I jump in here? I know. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say what I thought
Did
made
you
it.
say no, Monica?
No, I just want to say real
Go
quick,
ahead.
is that what I really enjoy about the Art Center is that they're holding classes, right? They're teaching these students so the same tools sort of that I was taught in order to be an artist, right? And to create that work. And also they are offering the experience like with artists and with art in that space. So being able to talk to the students as they're coming through the space while I'm working and putting things up or taking things down or whatever. They have courses, and so these students can relate to different types of work because they do different types of classes. So there's interest for a multitude of people in the space as well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, being able to use the galleries as a teaching tool is so important. And it was so meaningful when Marla was installing. We just happened to have a class the same evening, which was a group of young girls who are taking fashion design. And Marla is unveiling and putting together these amazingly elaborately constructed garments. And it just couldn't be more perfect for them to have the opportunity to meet someone who is a professional artist making work that they're learning about themselves in their classroom. And another thing to answer your question, Joan, and it's something we touched on a bit earlier, I think one of the other things, there's so many things that make the Art Center special, but we really do operate and feel like a family. The board, staff, and faculty really care about each other. We care about the students and how the work we do affects the broader community. And I believe that passion and care are evident in the work we do.
Gabrielle, did you want to weigh in here?
Sure. I just want to quickly jump off what Monica and Marla have said, which, there aren't too many spaces like ours that are a community art center where you have exhibitions, where you have courses. And, I think there's often a hunger and a desire for people to learn about the arts, whether they're just kind of stepping into it, or perhaps they're more established. I mean, no matter how experienced or established of an artist you are, there's still always something new to learn. And a lot of times, there maybe isn't so much of educational opportunity outside the structures of a college or university in a four-year setting, in a graduate setting. And so I think the Art Center and art centers like it really sort of step into that space and offer that to the community. And I think for the Essex Art Center specifically, it's also a really unique space in the Lawrence and Merrimack Valley area.
And you folks, and in particular, Monica used the word family, that you at Essex Art Center is a family. But I think that that spills over to the community, and not just the Lawrence community, but it actually embraces everyone from the surrounding suburbs as well. And I think that that is so important. When we keep talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, is for all of us to come together under our mutual humanity. And that's what art does, and that's what you do when you bring people under your roof. It's not just for people in Lawrence, it's for all of us, and how we see that we are a broader family of humanity. What's coming up next? Gabriel, do you want to share what's coming up?
Sure. So Marlo's exhibition will be on view until March 17th. And then shortly after that, on April 7th, we will be opening a solo exhibition by Jeffrey Mansfield, who is our artist in residence. He comes to us through the Lawrence Art Collective, which is a loose organization of 7 different nonprofits in Lawrence, all of whom are hosting an artist in residence. And we're lucky enough to have Jeffrey with us. So Jeffrey has a really robust archival research-based practice that really dives into the history of deaf schools, specifically deaf schools in New England, and the history of those schools as spaces of resistance. So Jeffrey is a designer, and he is also a professor at Harvard School of Design. And Jeffrey is also deaf himself since birth. And so he'll be opening a really interesting dialogue, not just for the deaf community, but for everyone, thinking about the history of these educational spaces, thinking about the presence they have in our communities, how they have resisted a lot of prejudice and stereotyping. And there's going to be quite a bit of programming along with that. So in addition to work that will be up on the walls in our galleries and an archive that he has developed, do be on the lookout for programming that'll be engaging the public throughout Lawrence once that exhibition is up.
So I want to go to this one. This sounds really fantastic. What's the date again?
April 7th.
April 7th. And you know what? We didn't tell people the address of the Essex Art Center, and plenty of parking, the whole thing. You want to tell people where it is?
Sure. It's at 56 Island Street in Lawrence. So it's right along the canal. If folks know what I've heard described as the Green Bridge in Lawrence, it's right on that intersection of the Green Bridge and the canal. And then immediately adjacent to us, there is a pretty vast parking lot that serves all of the businesses and organizations in the area. So there's parking, which is free, pretty much available all the time. So please stop by and stop in and join us. I mean, the thing that we always say is that, we like art, we like people, we like to talk. So come on over.
And besides plenty of parking, it's right near actually this really neat restaurant, Japu, right? So there's good eating in the area as well. So great place to visit. Monica, what would you like to, before we leave, let the public know about any special asks that you'd like to make?
Yeah, well, there are several ways you can support our work at Essex Art Center. Make sure you're following us on social media at Essex Art Center to see what we're up to on an almost daily basis. You can visit www.essexartcenter.org to find out what classes we're currently offering and for the most up-to-date information on what events are coming up. And as a nonprofit organization, we are always fundraising to ensure we can continue to provide free programming and reduce cost classes. If you believe in the power of art and want to help bring more amazing artists like Marla to our community, please consider supporting our work. You can make gifts online through our website or send in a check to that address that Gabriel shared, which once again is 56 Island Street in Lawrence.
And the check would be written out to the Essex Art Center, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So Monica and Marla and Gabriel, I just loved meeting with you this morning. I'm hoping that you'll be able to come back and join us again for another one of our shows. I also want to thank Brian for being such a wonderful host and allowing us to have the Community InRoads show. To those of you who are watching and you want to learn a little bit more about Community InRoads, how you can get involved with helping wonderful nonprofits like the Essex Art Center, please give me a call. You can call me on my cell phone, 978-604-8803. And until then, looking forward to meeting you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Joan. And
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Joan.
Marla.
Thank you.